right, you're listening to WCSB Cleveland at 9.3 FM, a band called Sound Doctrine, a brand new disc for those guys, something called Imagine, and the track was Just Think. Before that, Santana, a song for my brother from a CD called The Swing of Delight. Speaking of Sound Doctrine, Jere B's in the studio with us.
Uncle Randy.
He's holding a camera, pointing it at me.
That's right.
While he's talking to me.
That's right.
Wearing broken glasses.
Wearing broken glasses.
And a headset.
That's right. One ear on, one ear off.
So when I tell you that you have the camera crooked now, it's going to screw up all of your your dialogue.
Yeah, we're going to love it.
Oh, I don't believe you're actually holding a camera.
I am. I forgot my tripod. But I figured I would, let people know when they go to the website what actually happens on the Fusion show. Because there have been some legends out there, and we're going to dispel a few of them.
I'm on my best behavior today, just so you know.
Wow. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for letting us back up in the chair.
Absolutely.
We need a Randy Allar Appreciation Day. We really do, because you are the friend to the independent artist.
I need a day like that.
Yeah.
Just a day that I have nothing to do.
I don't think that would ever happen.
Oh, it just doesn't happen.
I don't think
And
it happens.
when you came up, I was telling you all the crap that I've been going through.
Yeah, it's been quite a week, huh?
With a cold and everything else. So, yeah, I'm sounding a little rough. It was really funny because I was actually talking like Barry White and singing like Lou Rawls, if you can believe that.
And you sang it to me in the waiting room.
Yeah,
you were in key, though.
The voice started coming back a little better. But
you were in key, so that was a
no,
good thing.
I was way off. But yeah, it's just been, boy, I'll tell you, anybody getting the colds and flus now, my heart goes out to you. This stuff is just horrible.
That's right.
So
understood. Well, you mentioned that the CD was called Imagine. It's actually not. It's Inspire. Inspire is the title.
The
of
track
the new
was
song.
Just Think.
Yes, you got the track right.
And
the album.
What did I say that
Imagine. You were thinking John Lennon. But
no, not at all.
It's called Inspire.
Inspire.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what it says on the front of the CD.
Yeah.
And on the spine of it.
Yeah.
And on the disc, too.
It does say that. Yeah.
How did I say Imagine? That's why I'm legendary, yes. I'm a legend in my own mind.
That's quite all right. Hey, man, thanks so much for having us up here, though. It's been a labor of love, and as you know, we actually started on the Inspire project back in 2008, and as a matter of fact, in January of 2008. But it was really, some trying times that happened personally and professionally in the life of Sound Doctrine, and we just kept forging ahead, thank God, and here it is. We made it. We released it 10-10-10. So, wonderful, wonderful project. A lot of guest musicians on this one. And the cut that you just heard, Just Think, featured Marlon Saunders, who was an excellent artist in his own right, out from Long Beach, California. And the one interesting thing about Inspire was how so many people participated in it from all across the United States and kind of flew their parts in. So we were not all in the studio at the same time. Marlon, in fact, recorded his parts in his home studio in Long Beach and sent them in. So, there was a lot of emailing going on. A lot of different formats and a WAV file being a WAV file, but we were able to put it together, and my co-producer Jerry Thompson, who engineered the project, was like, well, why was this recorded in this bit and that bit? But we were able to put it together, and finally here we are. Thank you, Lord.
Well, it's kind of like an impersonal way to do it.
Actually, it was very personable, and the
more so than having a musician in a studio. Working
it was really just the same. It really was, because with email and with being on the phone, I mean, sometimes we get a track in from someone and we'd say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to take this verse that you put here, we're going to make it actually the second verse where you intended it to be the first verse, and the part would come in, and I mean, we were just interactive, so it wasn't any different really than the guy being on the other side of the glass.
Well, I talked to guys like Jeff Richmond, who has done the Vivo Carlos and Fusion for Miles and the Visions of the Intermounting Apocalypse. the different discs like that, where he rearranges the tunes and then sends everything to the guitarist that will then record his part and email it back.
Right.
So they may never speak a word to each other during the whole process. So that's kind of what I'm used to with the emailing of the sound samples, sound clips, etc.
Well, you know, track number 11, I believe it is cut called Surrender, where basically I had put it out to the whole band, and Keith McKelly and I actually ended up writing it together by virtue of the fact that here's the track. I just had the basic track. I had no melody to it, and Keith, in his own home studio, just put his saxophone parts down, and it became the melody, and it really became just the whole focus of the tune, and that's called Surrender. And I mean, you know, I didn't tell him or ask him for any particular melody. That's just what he heard in his head, and boom, it just matched like hand in glove. So there was a whole bunch of that going on all through this process.
So then with this song, did you then add the rest of the parts to it?
Right. Right. That same song I'm talking about, then Paul Dowds, he put his acoustic guitar in. He was in Newcastle, PA. Emailed the track to him. He had the take, I should say, with Keith McKelly. And so he put his parts down, and then a guy whom we know and love, founder of one of the founding members of Sound Doctrine, Cliff Barnes, he actually came into the studio hearing what was already done and just interweaved his parts in. So for the most part, 99.9% of this CD is just engaging with musicians and artists all over the planet. Carlton J. Smith, who is based in Brooklyn, New York, but he has been in China for the most of the recording of this. He actually, we nabbed him, I should say, when he came back to Brooklyn just on a respite because he had been touring in China. He drove down to Youngstown, Ohio. We fed him as much as we possibly could feed him, drug him to the studio. He put his parts down for Love Wins Again, didn't even stay, got right back on the road, went to Brooklyn, left to go back to China. It was just, you know, incredible.
Wow.
Whirlwind type stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, though. It was a great. It's probably the most ambitious project that we've done to date. And you've heard everything that we've done.
Yeah,
So.
it's a mixture. It's a little bit gospel.
Yeah.
A little bit rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
A little bit smooth jazz. A little bit fusion.
Yep.
So you have a cut on here that I can't even begin to pronounce. Original
Alternative funk jazz fusion. And if you look on our logo, you know, I made sure that we put that up there because it's interesting. We've been calling when we put out Perseverance, which was our first one, I think we were dubbing the band Alternative Christian Funk because we didn't know what else to call it. So that seemed like a moniker that, you know, was cool to use. But when we got into Endurance and we started getting a lot of hits from the Weather Channel and whatnot, you know, we were kind of going into that smooth jazz vein because of the cuts that Jim Kokenauer was doing and, you know, getting a lot of play for that. And we're thankful for it. But, you know, Sound Doctrine was never created to be a smooth jazz band. We could do that. We enjoy some of the stuff, but that's not who we are. So we had to really sit down and define ourselves. What is Sound Doctrine? You know, what is Sound Doctrine music? Well, it's original alternative funk jazz fusion. I mean, that's what it is.
Anti-smooth jazz.
Somewhat
contemporary.
Not necessarily,
adults.
But somewhat. Yeah. It's all of that. It's, you know.
Fusion-based.
Yeah. That's it. And it's perfect, I think, for Randy Allar and his audience because there's something on there for everybody. I mean, the CD is not for everybody. We're not going to give it an umbrella like that, but it's for anyone who appreciates the diversity of this thing we call music.
Well, that's it. It's a very, very diverse disc. Mm-hmm. I was going through very carefully to pick out the instrumental cuts for the radio show.
Sure.
And then ended up queuing up the wrong track.
I think you queued up the perfect track. Because if you take a song like Just Think with Marlon Saunders singing, obviously there's vocal on it, but the track is written in 9, which is kind of strange for an R&B cut.
Yeah, it's tough to count out.
Yeah, but, you know, it's jazz. All jazz musicians would understand, well, this is 9. But, you know, to throw that on rhythm and blues radio or R&B stations, you know, people are going to wonder, well, what's that extra beat in it for? You know.
Okay, now
it's
you went
fusion.
There. You went there, so I'm going to go there.
Sure.
You went with 9.
Right.
Is it like 3, 3, and 3, or is it 4, 4, 1?
It's both. it's both. That particular cut is like both, because the verses are 3-3-3. When we get to the chorus, it's 4-4-1, and that the tapestry of that song right there is 9 on purpose because of the lyrics. And if you listen to what he's saying on the lyrics, we're talking about, just think about a world, without hatred, without violence. Just think about giving the world back love, getting along. And so if you're going to write it in 4/4, there's not going to be that extra beat. So just think and just take that one extra second to think about it. And that's kind of the purpose of that 9 being there, that 4/4-1.
It just makes it tough to dance to.
I don't want you to dance to that one. I want you to kind of think about it and just think,
No, we're having way too much fun at Jere's expense.